I need to ask you something. Do you remember Stick Stickly? Because I do. And that's kind of weird, right? For those of you who missed the 90s, or for those of you who were there and your brain has mercifully repressed it, Stick Stickly hosted an entire block of Nickelodeon television. Not a cartoon, not an actor, not a puppet. A popsicle stick with googly eyes and a yellow jelly bean for a nose. No one questioned it. And that's the part that gets me. No one turned to their parents and said, "Hey, why is this piece of wood talking to me?" No, we all just kind of accepted it. Yep, that's Stick. He lives in Stickopolis. His girlfriend's a wooden spoon. Makes sense. Carry on. He even had an evil twin, because of course he did. And every single afternoon, he'd end the show by singing his address. Write to me, Stick Stickly, P.O. Box 963, New York City, New York State, 10108. I still know it. Right now, without needing to look it up. I have not needed that information in like 30 years. And somehow, it survived algebra, high school, military basic training, marriage, kids, bills, jobs. Literally everything. It's still in there. Because I was one of those kids who wrote a letter to a popsicle stick. And I didn't think that was strange at all. And I think we need to talk about that. So welcome to the 90s Kid Guide. I'm Nate, your resident average Joe, proud 90s kid, and apparently a former pen pal of arts and crafts supplies. And today, we're talking about the absolute unhinged mascots that raised an entire generation. Because Stick Stickly, he's just the beginning. So let's start with Stick, mostly because this is the mascot I'm personally most responsible for enabling. I wrote the letters, I participated. I am proudly part of the problem. Now, if you've never actually seen Stick Stickly before, just picture a popsicle stick. Seriously, do not improve it in your head. Don't give him little arms, don't imagine Pixar eyes. Just picture the exact stick your orange creamsicle came on. Now glue two googly eyes to it, stick a yellow jelly bean where a nose should be, and draw on a little smile. Congrats! You've just recreated a beloved television celebrity. And before anyone says, "Well, Nate, kids have imagination." Absolutely, we did. But Nickelodeon looked at a pile of arts and crafts leftovers and went, "Yeah, that right there's our host." And somehow, they were right, because we all loved him. Now, here's where things start getting weird. Actually, no. Weird was 5 minutes ago. Here's where things became lore, because Stick Stickly didn't just exist. Ooh, no. There was an entire Stick cinematic universe. He lived in Stickopolis, which apparently was a real place. He had a girlfriend named Holly B. Wood. She was a wooden ice cream spoon. And I love that whoever wrote that in the writer's room was probably like, "Guys, I think I nailed it." Then someone else stood up and probably slow clapped. Then I found out he had an evil counterpart named Evil Stick. No subtlety, no tragic origin story, no moral complexity, just Evil Stick. At least you know exactly where you stand with that guy. Then I learned he had a long lost twin named Wood Not Stickly. Buddy, who was writing Stick lore? Who woke up one morning and thought, "You know what this popsicle stick needs? Family drama." And somehow it gets even stranger. Because the whole point of the show, the entire reason Stick existed, was to let kids choose what Nickelodeon played every afternoon. Before the internet, before online voting, before apps, if you wanted to help decide what aired, you wrote a letter to Stick. Not Nickelodeon, not programming department, not viewer services, to Stick. A popsicle stick with a mailing address. And every afternoon he'd sing it like some kind of tiny wooden Pied Piper. Write to me, P.O. Box 963, New York City, New York State, 10108. I still know it. Do you know what I don't remember? Anything from Algebra 2. Couldn't tell you. The quadratic formula? Gone. Spanish class? Me llamo Señor Caliente los Pantalones. That's all I remember. But ask me where to mail a handwritten letter to a fictional popsicle stick. And apparently my brain goes, ha ha, I've got this. And here's the thing, as ridiculous as it sounds, it was honestly kind of brilliant. Nickelodeon figured out something before almost anyone else. Kids don't just want to watch, they want to participate. They want to feel like they matter. They want to feel like maybe, just maybe, the episode of Rocko's Modern Life they're about to watch happened because they wrote that letter. And that's genius. They just wrapped that genius inside a piece of wood. Just imagine that meeting. All right, everybody, we've got millions of dollars. We need something every kid in America will remember forever. What have you got? Wood. I love it. Give me the jelly bean. And if we're being honest, it worked because here we are almost 30 years later talking about him. I don't remember every teacher I had in elementary school, but I do remember the address of a popsicle stick. And you know what? That kind of feels medically significant. Now, let's talk about Pizza Head. And my friends, I completely forgot this little guy existed. The second I saw him again, it was like someone unlocked a save file in my brain. Oh my God. Him. Now, if you've never seen Pizza Head, he's exactly what he sounds like. He's a slice of pizza with a face. That's it. There's no magical explanation, no wizard or laboratory accident, no ancient pizza prophecy. He's just pizza. And honestly, that's one of the more reasonable mascots that I'm going to be talking about today, because at least he's made out of the thing he's advertising. Now, here's what I somehow never realized as a kid. Pizza Head wasn't the star. Pizza Head was the victim. Every single commercial exists for one reason: to see what fresh new horror Steve can inflict on the poor slice of pizza. He gets flattened, rolled with a rolling pin, frozen, blasted into space, hit by asteroids, arrested, chased, dropped, launched. It's basically Wile E. Coyote, except the coyote is delicious. And the guy doing all of this? Steve. Not our Steve, different Steve. Our Steve would never. Probably. This Steve is a pizza cutter, literally, a walking pizza cutter, who somehow developed a personal vendetta against lunch. And here's my favorite part: Pizza Head recognizes him every single time. Steve shows up wearing a disguise: chef, coach, referee, construction worker, whatever. Pizza Head immediately goes, "Wait, that's not a real referee." And the narrator, without missing a beat, "Sure he is." "No, he isn't. He's clearly a pizza cutter wearing a fake mustache. I was 7 years old and I figured it out." Then Steve immediately assaults him. Again, every commercial ends with me sitting there thinking, man, I hope Pizza Head finally catches a break. Nope, not today. Maybe next commercial. Nope, hit by an asteroid. And then I found out something that completely reframed this entire campaign. Pizza Head was created by Walter Williams, who also created Mr. Bill from Saturday Night Live, the little clay guy whose whole existence was screaming, "Oh no!" while horrible things happened to him. Suddenly everything made sense. Pizza Head wasn't a mascot. He was Mr. Bill's pizza cousin. His entire job was suffering. One sold sketch comedy, the other sold stuffed crust pizza. And then, because apparently the 90s had absolutely no chill, Pizza Head crossed over with Star Wars. Think about that sentence. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Han Solo, Chewie, Pizza Head. One of those things is not like the others. And the tagline, the actual tagline, was Pizza Hut means weird fun. Weird fun? Sir, one of your employees has committed 17 consecutive acts of workplace violence against a sentient pizza. That is not weird fun. That is an HR investigation. But here's what's fascinating. It worked, because I remembered him instantly. I remembered Steve instantly. I remembered rooting for a slice of pepperoni pizza. I have never rooted that hard for actual people. Somehow, Pizza Hut convinced an entire generation of kids to emotionally invest in whether or not a slice of pizza could survive another commercial break. And that is incredible. Now, we need to talk about the Noid. And before we do, I want to put one thing on the table. This story takes a genuinely sad turn. So if we're going to laugh, we're laughing at how unbelievably bizarre the marketing became, not at the person caught up in it, because mental illness is real. What happened here is not funny. What the corporation did afterward, that is another conversation. Now, if you somehow escaped the Noid, first of all, congratulations. Second, imagine someone took the feeling of waiting for the pizza guy, looked out the front window every 30 seconds, wondering why he's late, and turned that anxiety into a creature. That's the Noid, a little red goblin, rabbit ears, buck teeth, looks like he lost a fight with a mascot factory. His entire job was ruining your pizza, making it cold, late, squished, dropped, basically every inconvenience that could happen between the oven and your front door. Domino's solution? Simple. Avoid the Noid. Order Domino's. We'll beat him there. And people loved him. He was everywhere. Commercials, t-shirts, toys, video games. At one point, he showed up in Moonwalker, Michael Jackson's movie, which means somewhere some executive looked at the king of pop, looked at a tiny pizza anxiety goblin, and said, yeah, same movie. Then, January 30th, 1989, and this is where everything changes. A 22-year-old man named Kenneth Lamar Noid walked into a Domino's Pizza in Atlanta, armed. Kenneth believed that the Noid campaign had been created specifically to mock him, that the commercials were about him, that Domino's had stolen his name and was targeting him personally. He took 2 employees hostage for 5 hours. His demands are one of those moments where history almost does not sound real. He wanted $100,000, a white limousine, and a book about Freemasons. History is weird. Now, during the standoff, he made the employees cook him pizza while he was holding them hostage. That actually happened. Eventually, the hostages escaped. Kenneth surrendered peacefully, and he was later found not guilty by reason of insanity and received psychiatric treatment. And honestly, that's the ending you hope for in a story like this, because at the center of all of this was someone who desperately needed help. Now, here's where my jaw hit the floor. Domino's just kept going. They didn't immediately retire the mascot. They didn't disappear him overnight. They didn't quietly pretend he never existed. Oh no! The Noid kept showing up, still ruining pizzas, still wearing the red suit, still bouncing around television like absolutely nothing had happened. Although eventually they did retire him in 1995, the same year Kenneth Noid died. And honestly, you'd think that would be the end of the story, right? Nope, because corporations don't really have memories. They have marketing departments. Because in 2021, Domino's brought him back. The Noid returned, like he'd just been on vacation. He has social media and merchandise. He showed up in a Crash Bandicoot mobile game. The Pizza Anxiety Goblin. He is back. And that's the part my brain cannot process. Not Kenneth, that part is heartbreaking. The part I can't process is imagining the meeting. Some marketing executive walks into a conference room, throws a PowerPoint on the screen, and says, "So, you know that mascot connected to one of the strangest chapters in our company's history? I think Gen Z's gonna love him." And somehow they were right, because people my age immediately went, "Oh my god, the Noid!" 30 years later, one weird little red goblin still lives somewhere in the back of my brain, just waiting for my pizza to be late. All right, let's end on one that somehow gets stranger the longer you think about it. The Burger King Kids Club. Now, I loved the Kids Club as a kid. Thought they looked cool, thought they looked like the kind of friend group every kid wanted. Now, looking back as an adult, I have some questions. First question, why were they always at Burger King? Seriously, did none of these kids have parents? School, homework, soccer practice? Every commercial, every comic, every promotion. These children are just there, hanging out inside Burger King, like it's their personal clubhouse. Burger King looked at Ronald McDonald and said, "You know what? One clown isn't enough. We need an entire cinematic universe. So, let's meet the gang. You've got KidVid. His whole thing is technology. Cool, makes sense. He's got a TV helmet because, listen, it was the 90s. Technology meant televisions. And I'll allow it. You've got Snaps. She's into photography. Again, solid. Name checks out. No notes. Then you've got IQ. He's a smart kid. His name is literally IQ. Subtle. Very subtle. Whoever was naming these kids had exactly one setting. Then you've got Jaws, the big kid, who likes eating. His name is Jaws. Imagine being introduced. "Hey everybody, this is Mike. This is Sarah. And this is Jaws." Buddy, that nickname follows you into adulthood. Then things take a turn because there's Boomer. Boomer. Boomer can fly. Why, you might ask? No clue. No one ever explains it. Everyone else is just kids. Boomer apparently looked at gravity and said, "Nah." And finally, there's Wheels. Now, before I say anything, I genuinely want to give Burger King credit. This was 1990. Kids with disabilities were almost never represented in children's advertising. Burger King actually included a kid who used a wheelchair. He wasn't the joke, he wasn't left behind. He was part of every adventure, and that's genuinely worth recognizing. But my friends, they named him Wheels. No one stopped that meeting. Not a single person. Imagine being the one employee who raises your hand. Hey, I love everything we're doing here, but maybe, I don't know, maybe we don't name the kid after the wheelchair." And someone else goes, "Nah, Wheels, ship it." And here's the crazy part. Kid me didn't think twice about it. Not once. I never questioned why Boomer could fly. I never questioned why Jaws' entire identity was eating hamburgers. And I never questioned why these kids seemingly lived inside a Burger King. I definitely never questioned Wheels. It was just, yep, those are the Burger King kids. See you next commercial. Looking back now, the whole campaign feels like someone designed a group project, then gave every character exactly one personality trait: technology, photography, smart, hungry, flying, and wheelchair. Done. Who wants lunch? And somehow it worked. I still remember every single one of them, which means Burger King accomplished exactly what they set out to do. I don't remember what I had for dinner 3 nights ago, but I remember a fictional kid named Wheels from a fast food commercial. That's either brilliant marketing or long term psychological conditioning. You know what? Honestly, it's probably both. But hey, at least they weren't asking me to mail them letters. Okay, we've been able to laugh at all of these characters, but I've been asking myself something all week long. Why did this work? Seriously, why were we so completely okay with all of this? A popsicle stick, a pizza whose entire existence was pain, a little anxiety goblin, and a gang of children who apparently lived inside Burger King. Why? And I think maybe it's because the 90s rewarded imagination differently. No one needed everything explained. No one asked where Stick came from. No one asked why Boomer could fly. And no one questioned why Pizza Head was alive. The mascot just existed, and that was enough. We were just happy to come along for the ride. Kids have this incredible ability to accept impossible things without demanding an explanation. Adults, we want lore. Kids just go, oh, a talking pizza. Cool, what's next? And honestly, I kind of miss that. Not being gullible, not believing everything, just having enough imagination to meet a story halfway. To not immediately ask, well, how does that work? Instead, okay, let's see where this goes. Because just think about it. If someone pitched Stick Stickly today, the first comment online would be unrealistic. Dude, he's a popsicle stick. We're already past realism. And maybe that's why these mascots have stayed with us. Not because they made sense, because they absolutely didn't. They stood out. They were weird. They made us laugh. They became part of the wallpaper of growing up. You don't remember every single commercial, but you remember the ones that made your brain stop for a half second and go, a what? I still think it's hilarious that somewhere inside my brain there's a file cabinet. One drawer contains tax information, and another drawer contains birthdays, and another has the complete mailing address of a fictional popsicle stick. Priorities. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it because every one of those weird little memories is connected to something much bigger. Summer vacation, Saturday mornings, after school, your parents making dinner, your brother yelling from the other room, the sound of the air conditioner, the smell of pizza on a Friday night. The mascot was never really the memory. The life around it was. And all it takes is hearing, write to me, Stick Stickly, or seeing that little red Noid, and suddenly, for just a second, you're home again. Oh, hey, Steve. Steve says he still checks to make sure the pizza's hot. Dude, everyone checks if the pizza's hot. Steve, buddy, the Noid is not real. Steve says, I know, but what if? Steve, are you telling me a 1990 Domino's commercial successfully installed a permanent pizza-related anxiety response into your adult brain? That's actually incredible. No, do not be proud of that. That is not a personality trait. That's psychological branding. Steve says, you laugh, but your first thought when the pizza's late wasn't traffic. It was the Noid. God damn it, Steve. And that, my friends, is yet another page in the 90s Kid Guide. Today, we revisited a popsicle stick with a mailing address, a pizza whose full-time job was surviving attempted murder, a tiny red anxiety goblin that somehow outlived Blockbuster Video, and a group of Burger King kids who apparently never had to be home before the streetlights came on. You know, normal stuff. And I think that's why I love revisiting the 90s. Not because everything was better, because it wasn't. And not because everything made sense, because it definitely didn't, but because it was a time when being weird was enough. No one needed an origin story. No one demanded realism. No one asked why the popsicle stick could talk. We just shrugged, grabbed another Capri Sun, and went along for the ride. And honestly, I'm grateful we did. Because all these years later, those ridiculous little mascots aren't really what we remember. We remember where we were. The couch, the living room floor, summer break, pizza on a Friday night, waiting for cartoons to come back after the commercials. Those mascots were never the destination. They were just little mile markers on the road to growing up. And somehow, 30 years later, they're still helping us find our way back. So here's this week's lobby question. What's the one mascot that instantly transports you back to childhood? The one where someone only has to say their name, and suddenly, you're 8 years old again. Come tell us over in the lobby, the Average Joe Nerdcast community on Facebook. I have a feeling we're about to unlock a whole bunch of memories together. And while you're there, come join us over on Discord too. We've got an awesome group of book nerds hanging out in the book nook, rabbit holes happening every day, gaming chats, movie discussions, and just good people being nerds together. The links will be down in the show notes. We'd love to have another book bro, or book girly, or just somebody else who still remembers the Noid. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, following the show is one of the biggest ways that you can help. So whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, be sure to subscribe, smash that bell, hit follow, leave a rating if your app lets you. And if today's episode made you laugh, share it with that one friend who still remembers riding to Stick Stickly, or insists they weren't scared of the Noid, because we all know they're lying. As always, a quick shout out to my player 2. Thank you for listening to me spend an entire week researching the lore of a popsicle stick. You married an incredibly strange person, and I appreciate you. I've been Nate. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. Until next time, stay gold, nerd bold. And if you'll excuse me, I think I owe a popsicle stick a letter. I'll catch you on the next one.
Game over.